Hmm? Ah!
You're listening to the Run for Your Lives podcast.
Hey everyone, welcome to the show. I'm Daphne.
And I'm Pake.
And this is the Run for Your Lives podcast.
This episode, we are talking about the science fiction action film Meg 2, The Trench, directed by Ben Wheatley and released August 4th, 2023. So another newer one, a sequel we've been waiting on for a while. And since it's something special we've been waiting on for a while, decided to bring in some guests. That's right, extra S. At the end of that, for the first time ever, we actually have like a panel of 4 people on a podcast.
Yeah.
It's interesting because it's a shark movie. We absolutely have to bring back in my other co-host over from Strange Indeed, Rima. Welcome.
Hi. Thank you for having me.
And then one of our favorite guests to always have on and talk about blockbuster-y, crazy action movies. Of course, always fun. It's been a while since we've had him, so Ben Beck is here with us today as well.
Hello. Wait a minute. I thought this was about Deep Blue Sea. I'm not prepared.
Oh,
That was about 100 episodes ago, or
Yeah, I know.
75 episodes.
And I think Rima was on that one too, weren't you?
we had Greg on that one.
Oh, was it
yeah,
Greg
I
for that
think I
one?
was on
Okay.
that one, yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
They did the
it's a good
first
one.
Meg.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, our listeners may remember Ben from his monologue at the end of Independence Day when we recorded that episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was fun. And you guys have been wondering if I was ever going to do another monologue for anything else, and I haven't yet.
Not yet.
No.
Because I think we were talking about doing one for Armageddon.
Mm-hmm.
And I was trying to figure out which one to do. And it was when I came down to, well, maybe I'll do the Animal Crackers scene with Ben Affleck and Liv Tyler. And no, that doesn't work out. That's to change the
great.
pitch of my voice and everything. It's no fun.
Ben, was that the last episode you were on?
I think it was.
I think so.
That
It's been
was
a while.
over a year ago.
It's been a while.
So it's good to have you back, for sure.
Yeah.
I've been looking forward to it. And I mean, you guys said in the beginning of this too, a sequel you've been like looking forward to with the Meg. I'll be honest with you, until the trailer popped up, I had no idea there was a sequel.
Oh, yeah.
We monitor it very closely, especially when it involves sharks of any kind.
It was not on my. I love the first one, but the sequel was not on my radar. So when the trailer popped up, I was very excited.
I enjoyed the trailer immensely.
I have
it
a
was great.
beef with the trailer, but I'm sure I'll talk about that at some point.
I'm sure you
Can't
will
wait.
too.
Is it that there's a major spoiler of a
Yeah,
scene
absolutely.
in the trailer? Yeah,
Absolutely.
I know what scene you're talking about.
Yeah.
You won't have to wait that long to talk about it.
All right, so we'll get into this. And as we usually do when we have guests, is we break it down into more of like a top 3 style. With the 4 of us, and I know as much as we all love these kind of things, if it quickly devolves into still just like a free-for-all, loosely organized, just conversation, I wouldn't be surprised, but I'll take it. It'll be fine.
We're going to run with it.
Yeah.
It's happened before. We just love the conversation, and wherever it goes, we're just going to go wherever it takes us.
Yep.
We're not going to stick to guidelines and try to rein it in. There's no fun in that. We have to just let loose.
Absolutely. So before we get into that conversation, you've got fun stuff
I do.
for us.
Couple things. So, filming took place in Phuket, Thailand, Hong Kong, China, and Los Angeles. It's based on Steve Alten's 1999 novel, The Trench. There are 8 novels in total, so if there are sequels, there's plenty of material. Screenplay was by John and Eric Hober and Dean Georgaris, who also wrote the screenplay for the first film. The budget for this one was between 129 and 139 million. It grossed currently as far as 354 million at the box office. It's 116 minutes long. Pake, give us a synopsis.
All right. Today's IMDb unhelpful synopsis is: a research team encounters multiple threats while exploring the depths of the ocean, including a malevolent mining operation, which really doesn't play that much of a part at all.
Not really. Not if you consider how quickly some of the people were dispensed or disappeared, gone,
Right.
dead, murdered
Look,
over.
the mining operation was literally the can of Barbasol.
Yeah, it really was. Yeah.
It was the potential to be something else that never came to fruition.
Exactly.
Well, we don't know yet. It could. It still could. Because this is the second movie. And
It is.
if they do a third,
There could be a third. I don't know. There's really not much talk about
There's
it.
all
other
the
than
books, which
They have tons of
Mhm.
material, to be able to do it. But
I didn't know there were 8 books. I kind of want to read them all.
I was gonna say I didn't learn until this sequel that these were based on books. I was like, well, now I'm invested. Now I need to explore.
Rima, I was the same exact way. I was watching the credits and it said based off the novel The Trench. I was like,
Yeah.
what?
I was like, excuse
Yeah.
me, what novel?
Yeah, there's a lot. Some of the others are called Primal Waters, Hell's Aquarium, Origins, Night Stalkers, Generations, and Purgatory. If that
Interesting.
gives you any indication. I don't think it does. I mean,
No.
we're talking about megalodons.
Mhm.
It can go anywhere at this point.
Oh yeah, and if they do continue to do all those sequels, who knows how off the rails it's going to be? Because this one already, without spoiling too many of thoughts or whatever that we'll talk about, this already was like, remember how the first one had a couple of like really ridiculous things? We just decided to do that.
Hey, as far as to whether or not they could do another one to this, all I will say, and Rima will know exactly what I mean when I say this, Fast 10.
Yes.
Oh boy.
Yeah. When there's a will and money, there's a way.
Exactly.
Yep.
And the one
They-
thing they have in common is Statham.
Well, I did do some research. They did this on purpose because they were pushing back at the ratings, the lack of the blood, and the amount of humor that was in it. They were able to not have such a high rating as far as like the MPAA. However, Jason Statham himself was disappointed.
In this movie?
He just didn't appreciate the lighter tone and the lack of bloodshed. He wanted to bleed. Maybe he wanted to bleed. Reminds me of someone else. Maybe he wanted others to bleed. I don't know.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I'm disappointed in my boy Statham.
What?
Well,
Said
it's
I'm-
interesting.
Disappointed in my boy Statham.
Why?
It's interesting because it does take a lighter tone in a lot of those ways, a lot of humor stuff, but also in some of the storylines and like aspects of this movie, it is a much darker tone than the first one. Also, like they somehow played with both.
Yeah. I honestly have to agree with Jason Statham. I wanted it to be bloodier. I wanted it to be less humorous, although I did laugh a lot and I did enjoy the humor. I wanted more overall. That's not to say that I didn't enjoy it, because I did. I have some thoughts and some points. So we should probably just jump into it.
Oh, absolutely. Dive in. Let's go.
Dive in.
Who's on Dive Team 1? Who's on Dive Team 2? How are we doing this? No. All right. Well, we will let the guests go first. But maybe I'll let you battle it out amongst yourselves who actually starts. I don't know.
No, Rima can go first. I'm fine with it.
Right.
Okay. Well, I've got thoughts, but I'm keeping a lot short because I want to make sure, I'm really curious to hear what y'all think. So I don't want to do a whole lot of talking here. But I do want to call out as my first point, kind of what we were talking a little bit about here in this conversation at the start. It was how, for me, it felt like the first half and the second half of this movie were like two different movies almost.
Mhm.
I don't know if anyone else feels that way. I wish it was a little bit more like the entire movie was more like the third act of the movie. You know, I didn't find the villains, like the human villains, very interesting. You know, I got kind of bored with them. I really wish they had focused more on the Megs. The first part where we have this whole mining side plot felt kind of useless to me. I had so many questions, and I kept trying to apply logic to some of these things, and then I had to remember what I was watching and remember that logic doesn't really apply to like this franchise at all. None of it really makes a whole lot of sense, but they try to explain things to make it sound like they're making sense. I also wish not just like more attention had been focused on the megalodons, but also like some of the other creatures, like the whole octopus was like completely underused, like, and I'm like, no, I'm watching. I was like, is no one like talking about this huge octopus just under the water? Like it's one of its arms coming up and like slinging people around or dunking them and drowning them, and it's destroying things. Everybody's just like, oh yeah, it's just, no one's talking about it. I thought it was super cool. It was like, oh yeah, this annoying octopus over here, but oh, let's go fight some sharks and just ignore this over here. So it's kind of like, are you kidding me? There's all these fascinating creatures. And, I felt they were very underutilized, and just how they were trying to kind of smush this really serious tone in the first half. And the second half I thought was like full of all the action, the stuff that I really loved, and just the silly campiness, outrageous fighting these huge sharks is kind of more of what I wanted. So kind of getting like a little bit of a low point of the movie out of the way as my first point. But I'm curious to know what y'all think.
Yeah, I agree for sure with that. That did feel very different because, it was like the trench survival. Because by the time they actually got out of the trench and like resurfaced, I was like, oh, it's already been over an hour into the movie. Like that was the first half. It really was broken up that way. And yeah, they focused on a lot of plots that really didn't go anywhere. Like, and like you said, it was very surface level, like basic. I had a note about that where I was like, the evil plan or whatever. I was like, I really wasn't into it because it was like, and what are you doing? Money. What for? Money. It's all about money. Forget the ecosystem. Money, money, money. And it's like, that's your entire evil plan is money, money. Okay, got it.
Maybe I saw things a little bit differently, but like I knew from the moment the mining explosion went off and there's this big hole in the permafrost now that like, okay, there's going to be a second half of this movie because they're going to come up through this hole. And I was like, so I knew that the second half was going to be different. It was going to be more surface than what we got. Actually, pun intended. That
literally,
time. Yeah, literally surface movie that time because that's what was going to happen. As far as them not paying attention to this octopus, I'm using just my logic here, which is very flawed a lot of the times. To me, like the reason why nobody really paid attention to it was because character-wise, they didn't know it was there. Their focus was on the megalodons, and they never knew this octopus even existed until all of a sudden its arms were coming up. So I was able to kind of write that off a little bit, that they weren't focusing on this giant octopus. As far as the human villains go, that's where I actually found a lot of the humor. Because these villains were so short-sighted in everything that they were doing. Because two of my notes here for this, and they're not my main points, so I can bring them up now, are one, there are megalodons and a giant octopus, but yet your main objective is to kill Jason Statham.
Yeah.
Is to kill Jonah. There are obviously bigger things at work here.
Right.
Priorities.
And then my other one, and this is the bigger one that made me laugh more than anything, was Boss Lady. I can't remember her name because she was so inconsequential of a character. You are the person who's providing all the money and stealing all this research. Why would you go with them to the island? That is a death sentence. Stay in your skyscraper headquarters.
Right.
Let your minions do all the work. The moment you went with them, you were dead.
Yep.
Like that to me was a huge plot thing where I was like, okay, that's a plot device where it's a way for them to kill off the person in charge.
Yeah.
Was you have her join the expedition.
Yeah, I enjoyed that part when she got killed off.
It happened off screen though, so did she?
Yes. I
No,
believe she did.
just going
She's
with it.
gone.
Yeah, it was kind of weird because she like gets out of the helicopter and like the men that have gotten out before her are all like laying there like just torn to pieces and like dead on the ground. It's like those are the quietest murderous creatures ever. Like they managed to kill these soldiers around her and nobody knew, and now they're waiting for her.
They're called snappers. Those creatures. That's what they're called.
They actually did give them a name.
Yeah,
I was just calling them the Toothy
they gave
Terrors or Gremlins, or there's a couple different things.
But to go into that was just kind of piggybacking off of Rima's, but to go into one of my main points is one of the things I appreciated about the movie is, and this is where my disappointment in Jason Statham's feeling for the movie kind of come in, is that I appreciated the fact that this movie actually let Statham be Statham. Because in the first movie, it's all about the Megs. He is this guy, and he's on jet skis and in boats and, in the water. But this movie opens with hand-to-hand combat, which is what we know Statham to be all about. We get more of that hand-to-hand combat down in that mining station. So this movie actually gave people moments of Jason Statham that they know Jason Statham for. That True. I appreciated that. So for me to hear that he was a little disappointed, that's where I'm disappointed, because this movie gave you an opportunity to be more of you, but yet you're kind of disappointed with the way the movie came out.
Well, he just wanted more blood.
He's got the Expendables 14 coming up. Right. That'll give them blood.
Yeah, he's going to be an Expend 4 Blizz. So he's.
That's not what they're calling it, is it?
Yeah.
Wait, what is it called?
Well, it's Expendables, but the A is a number 4, so I would say Expend 4 Blizz.
That's horrible.
Yeah.
Ben, he did all of the water ski, the jet ski stunts. He did them.
So he actually jumped a wave and threw a bomb into a megalodon's head?
Yeah,
that was awesome.
Sure.
I literally cheered during that moment, too.
Yeah, I had a note about that scene, like that little, just being like, that is peak action movie, yay! Right. Like, that is what that was.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really appreciated the fact that they gave us moments of Statham as an action hero, like hand-to-hand combat action hero, instead of just keeping him in the water the whole time.
He was the Green James Bond. A lot of it was on...
Yeah. Oh, yes. Yeah, I love that line.
The
Green James Bond.
Yeah.
I mean, there was hand-to-hand combat, too, because he does punch a snapper underwater.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's what you have to do.
So he got hand-to-hand against the creatures, too.
Yeah.
You can't have Jason Statham in a movie and not have some hand-to-hand combat and some martial arts. I mean...
Yeah, it had to happen.
Yeah,
exactly. And this is kind of off the topic too, but as somebody who shaves his head because he is balding, Jason Statham makes us look good. Because he is very clearly bald.
Yeah.
He's got the ring of hair and nothing on top.
Yes.
So if he can rock it, we can too.
That's right.
That's great. Well, then now between me and Daphne, how do we...
Yep, it's always me that goes first, so I'm just going to handle it.
All right.
So, my first point is this. I want to talk about who we saw and who we didn't, because I was disappointed because when they first started talking about the sequel, Li Bingbing was going to return as Su Yin. And then at some point she walked away from the film. And they chose, instead of coming up with some fancy story, they decided to kill her off. So she can never come back. So if there are future spin-offs, they're not going to be able to bring Mai Ying's mother back because she's gone.
Well, I don't necessarily agree with that.
Unless she faked her death for some crazy secret agent plot.
Well, they don't give a story as to how she died.
They don't.
They really
so
don't.
It is very... It could have been she's lost at sea somewhere and they just assumed her as dead. So she could return.
Maybe. I'm just saying. I'm sad she didn't come back for this one. Jax, a.k.a. Ruby Rose, not in this one. Jessica McNamee, Laurie. They were 3 of the main cast that didn't return.
Yeah.
in
I'll
this
be
one.
honest, I was a little bummed that Ruby Rose was not back in this one, because one, she was fun in the first one, and then now I get to do my like name drop thing where like I randomly met her last year and she was one of the coolest people I've ever she was so sweet, and so I was like, oh, now she's gonna be in this new movie. No, not in this one. Dang.
And I was witness to it, so it really happened. It's not, yeah.
Well, when
For sure.
when the movie first started, too, the actress that plays Regis, before they said her name, I was actually under the assumption that was Jack's recast.
I wondered the same
okay.
thing as well.
And then when they called her Regis, I was like, okay, that's not Jack's.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think she kind of has the Jax role
Yeah.
in some ways,
Mhm.
yeah. So those were 3 of the characters that we didn't get to see. However, they did bring in Wu Jing, who is, of course, Mei Ying's uncle. He was hilarious and reckless and crazy at times. I was convinced that he was going to die in
Me
the
too.
movie
Mhm.
because he just kept doing these ridiculous things. And then there was a moment where Max says to him, okay, you lead him away and I'll get the chopper. And he acts all surprised. And I'm like, why should you be surprised? You've been doing crazy shit this entire time. Of
Yeah.
course you should be leading them away.
I love the scene where he's like holding the flare, like he was like, I'll drive the Megs away, and it's like Jonas has to take it from him and go like, stop trying to sacrifice yourself. We can just launch it. Like, what are you
Exactly. I felt like he had a death wish. I really did. I thought he was going to go. I'm so glad he didn't, because he was really funny. Some of his dialogue was just great. The scenes between him and Mei Ying were nice. I liked the bonding moments. It was, great to see. And I kept thinking, when I went to the movies to see this, I just kept thinking, I've seen you before.
Mhm. I have a note.
Where have I seen
This is
you?
his second time being in the Run for Your Lives
Yes, it is.
world. Mm-hmm.
Yes, it is, because he played Li Pingchang from The Wandering Earth.
Yes. Which the sequel of that, Wandering Earth 2, is out now, and we should totally cover it next season.
Yes, I found it, actually. It's
I
on,
think it's on Amazon right now.
and Peacock. So it's out there. I'm looking forward to watching it. And The Wandering Earth is a Chinese blockbuster science fiction movie. It was really their first foray into it. And it did very, very well. And it was different because China really hasn't put out films like that before. And so their unique view was very cool. So I'm excited to get to do what is the prequel. It's the sequel to the original film, but it's actually a prequel.
But yeah, but bringing that up, just if anybody liked seeing the character Zhu Ming here and didn't know who he was, there's another movie for you to go check out to see him starring in if you liked what he was doing.
Yeah, it was cool to see him doing that. And Wu Jing is a big name in Chinese cinema. So they got they knew they weren't getting Li Bingbing back, so they had to come up with someone who would draw. And he came in. He's in a lot of action.
He's a notable
films.
martial artist himself. I heard.
Yes,
we didn't get to
he
see
is.
any of that in this movie, but that's because I wasn't familiar with his work. So when I looked him up, I was like, oh, look, he's very acclaimed himself in the world of martial arts, like Jason Statham. So I was like, oh, too bad we didn't get to see some of that,
Yeah. Maybe he'll break it out in the third movie if he comes back if they do
Yeah.
it.
I mean, now that I know that, I would have loved to have seen him just like pull out just one roundhouse kick.
Right?
Yeah, out of
Just
nowhere.
do something. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, the most that we got out of him was when he poked DJ in the stomach. So he
Yeah,
back
I said he
and
Pillsbury
opened the door.
doughboyed him
I
right
was
into the
just
button.
gonna say,
Yeah.
Pillsbury doughboyed him.
Yep.
Look, he had a great accidental machete bomb.
Yeah.
I mean, that was unique. He was involved in the octopus versus the helicopter sushi
It was
scene.
a calamari for everyone, panicking down below.
I was with you though. I was convinced so many times, even up to that last moment with the little sonar thing, that this dude's gonna die at some
Oh,
point.
yeah, like he's like, she followed my commands, and he circles back around. Wham! Like, oh.
Oh, I thought it was over. I really did think it was over.
Nice to
for
meet
him.
you. Bye.
You made it this far.
Yeah.
We also got Cliff Curtis back as Mac, and we won't talk about that other show that he was on that we all used to watch but don't watch anymore. He was, solid.
I really enjoyed him. I thought he was great.
Yeah, he did a good job. And Paige Kennedy as DJ was back again. Only this DJ was not the DJ we met in the first film.
He is trained.
He came prepared.
He's badass now. He's got a go bag and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was not the same person that we met before.
I
couldn't believe it.
I was also very appreciative too, because oftentimes when you have movies like this that do a sequel and there's a child involved, the child tends to be recast as an older one, but they didn't do that. This is the same actress that played the kid in the first movie.
Yep. Shoya Sophia Kai. And she hasn't done a lot of movies. I think she's done 4. She only had 4 acting credits on IMDb, and 2 of them are The Meg and The Meg 2.
Yeah. It was fun to have her back.
It was. She's just as precocious as she was before. And honestly, I think she's pretty capable.
Yeah, probably the best
stuff
chuckle scene from her is you have Jonas and Juming trying to lift this power door up, and then she just goes over and hits the button and it goes down, and I'm just like, yeah, that's
It's always the younger generation that shows up the older folks.
Yeah, that was a perfect Beiying moment. She was great. I loved getting to see her back. She was 14
has it
when
only
they
been
filmed
5
this one.
years
She was
since the
9
last
when they
one?
did the
It was
first one.
2018, wasn't it? Yeah.
It has.
Get all my shark movies confused.
2018.
Between The Meg and The Meg 2. And Sharknado.
I didn't realize it had been that long. It didn't feel, for me anyway,
Right.
that it was, I was like, oh my
no.
gosh, was it really 2018? It just felt like it was just a few years back when I watched the first one. So
Of course, even when I think of the year 2018, for some reason, it still feels like 2 years ago. It's like we've just been perpetually in 2020 for
because
4
we
years
did
now.
have a good 2-year gap where nothing happened.
it's true. So true. Time is a construct these
Happens.
days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Time kind of stopped for 2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think we subtract 2 years
Works for me.
from everything and go back to that. I think that works. So that's my point. I just really wanted to point out, who we didn't see, but who we did get to see. So it's really cool.
Well, for mine, I like to hyper focus on characters and certain things. So talking about that, it's great. There's one of the last ones you talked about is, yes, the character of DJ. I'm just going to have fun talking about for a little bit. But having Paige Kennedy back, love having him. It's he came prepared. I was like, hell yeah, DJ with these ninja skills out of nowhere. He's the one busting the surprise roundhouse kick out of nowhere.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Which, watching those scenes, I was just like, I need more Paige Kennedy in my life. He is so hilarious and fun. I need to see him in more things. Because I think the first time I ever saw him, Ben might be the only person who would understand this, was Rhett and Link's Buddy System Season 1. He was a friend of theirs.
That's in Buddy System.
That is where I was introduced to Paige Kennedy, and I haven't really seen a whole lot of him since. He was U-Turn in a season or 2 of Weeds way back in the day. But yeah, I don't see a whole lot of him, so I'd like to see more. Then I also learned he's a musician, and rapper himself. He actually recorded the song Chomp that is in the soundtrack of this movie, plays over the credits. That is Paige Kennedy. So that was cool. But yeah, just, he has a lot of the great lines and fun things. I like that, we're going to follow some giant sharks to an unknown sector. That's some dumbass shit. Mark my words. I was like, yeah, words marked, DJ. Words definitely marked. It's not going to go well. I was very surprised his pepper spray and tase plan worked, even with Mac running eyes first into the spray. Which is another just great scene where he was like, spray him, I'm gonna close the door, wait, then you come back out and tase him. And he just goes back and is like, I told you to wait.
That was funny.
Well, this kind of goes back to, real quick, goes back to the Meg 1, is Paige Kennedy was also in a television show called Backstrom on Fox that was very short. It only went like 13 episodes, and he was in this show. But it's actually how he gained the relationship with Rainn Wilson, who was also in the first Meg movie. The two of them were in the first Meg movie together.
That's cool.
I think Rainn Wilson was a formidable villain in that movie.
He's better than my name is Montez. You destroyed my freighter. Prepare to die.
I hold him in higher regard. I think that he set up, there was something, the finesse that he had. I don't think that this group, they don't hold a candle to what Rainn Wilson did in the first Meg.
Well, they took everything that Rainn Wilson's character was in the first movie and they split it into two different characters. And it made it more humorous, like I said, than anything else. Yeah. They were inept.
Yeah, like, I don't... tangent, but since you mentioned that, like, the character of Jess was so weird to me, because he was just like, surprise, I'm fully evil now.
I saw that coming.
Like, I figured it was the second that Mac was like, you know, oh, there's got to be a mole on the inside. And the way she responded, I was like, oh, it's her. And then whenever he's like, well, good thing we have this backup footage that people didn't know about. And like the look on her face, she like stops typing. And I was like, oh, it's her. Got it. Yeah. Like, but she went from like, oh no, let's figure this out, to being like, mwahaha, I'll kill you and your family and everyone. Like, where did this come from? Money.
Then she died in a hilarious way.
Right. Not quite Meg proof, was it?
No.
Yeah.
When she tapped on the window, I just had a feeling. It's like she's going.
That was this movie's attempt to do the Samuel L. Jackson Deep Blue Sea.
That was a little nod, I think.
Yeah, where like just the like little surprise twist, which I appreciated it for what it was. I was like, I saw it coming, but I was like, yeah, it's still fun. But yeah, back to DJ. Again, I like Mac and DJ just as the team there doing their thing. It was funny that like the Ju-Ming and Jonas get back on the ship. It's like, you guys go get Mac and DJ, get them out of here. And I'm like, what about all the other people on the rig? Well, they don't have credited names, so they don't matter. Just get those two.
Oh, man.
But yeah, we talked about his preparation. He couldn't even swim in the first movie, and now he's back fully prepared. He's like ninja skills. He's like jumping and diving like off the top of the thing and swimming, and
he's armed,
loaded up with all this stuff.
Gun.
Got, yeah,
oh my
all this.
God.
Yeah, I even made poison tip bullets like in Jaws too. And I'm like, I hate to burst your bubble there, but those didn't work in that movie at all.
Well, finish that movie.
Yeah.
But later on, something that was in Jaws 2 did work. It was successful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then like they're going to get out, and there's like they're on that little dinghy like rowing, and he was like, I don't know, we still like look like food. I was like, I'm with him. It definitely looks like food. Realistically, engines on a dinghy would make it less food-like, wouldn't it? Like, I don't recall seeing a lot of gas-powered seals in my life. But
well,
sure, we'll go with that logic.
It's the motion it's the churning of the water that attracts them from the engine. That's why they weren't using the engine. Logic. Movie logic.
I did like the backpack that he was wearing
That was
a lot.
very cool.
To the point that I actually looked it up. There's like a website where you can like find like clothing and stuff that's in movies, and then you can like find out where to buy it. And I'm not that I planned on buying it, but I wanted to see what it was. It's an MCM worldwide bag. The exact bag costs $423 on StockX right now, which is actually well below retail.
Jump on it.
Yeah.
Oh,
right.
but it really was a cool bag.
Yeah. It's pretty cool. And then the last like weird note that I had, I guess, on him is when him and Regas are encountered by these little like creatures, the snappers or whatever, and he starts counting down. He's like, all right, at the count of 3, and she's already taken off, we'll go ahead and run. So 3, I like that. He's like, wait for me. But then it cuts immediately to him running in front of her, and I was like, yay, continuity errors.
I picked up on that too. I was like, wait, how is he ahead of her now?
Yeah.
He's got one of those, he's got a jetpack that we didn't see, and he got over there, and yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it was funny that he was looking for useful items, and Regas was getting money out of the guy's wallet. Well, he doesn't need it anymore.
He doesn't.
Like, okay, she's being practical, but so is he. He wants to call and get help because snappers are everywhere.
Yeah.
That scene with her taking off and leaving him behind is the epitome of, I don't have to outrun the bear. I just have to outrun
just have
you.
to be faster than you.
Yep.
Wait for DJ. Yeah, That was great. Paige Kennedy. So again, we don't have any word or anything on if these continue to churn out more sequels, but if so, we need DJ to continue to evolve and grow and continue his hilarious ways, because I really liked having him back.
I think he'll show up in camo next time.
He's like the Burt Gummer of the series, and eventually just beat him.
He is. Yeah.
You mentioned the great partnership between DJ and Mac, and like even if we don't get more sequels, I will be happy with DJ and Mac being the Hobbs and Shaw of this movie franchise.
Yeah.
Give them a spin-off.
I agree.
Yes.
They were very entertaining. I was pleased.
Yeah. All right. Well, Rima, what's your next point?
Well, so I know I talked first, where some of my disappointment was with this movie, but I did find a lot to enjoy because, I get it. I take these types of movies for what they are. And while I didn't love the first half, I was a little bored with this, underwater excursion and this mining operation and things like that. But when I knew, okay, we are in for a wild ride with this movie, that was when Jason Statham goes swimming for a whole minute with no dive suit when he's 25,000 feet down in the ocean and lives.
That scene did bother me, though, because I was just like,
Yeah.
Where she's like, you just have to breathe a certain way and then pressure doesn't affect you anymore. And I'm like,
that's not how that works.
No, it's not, because
you don't see fish wearing metal suits because biologically they're, you know what? Never mind. Just sure.
well, and that's what makes it so much more funny to me, because like we literally just had a scene where 5 minutes before someone died from implosion, right? From the pressure. Yeah. And so now they're trying to explain this like fake science to us.
Right.
But Rima, she didn't empty her sinuses before the helmet imploded.
And I mean, it feels like...
Didn't you know if you have a... like?
Well, it made it almost like it was only going to work for Jason Statham because he was like, had his whole deviated septum thing. And
I was like, if you have a deviated septum, automatically ocean pressure, surface pressure doesn't affect you.
I'm
anymore.
golden then. I'll be able to help anybody if I'm in that scenario.
Because...
Yep.
You want to test that theory, Ben?
No.
Definitely not. But it's like when you're sitting there like, that's not going to work. They then try to explain to you why it's going to work. Like, it's okay. It's okay to accept this explanation because we have this science behind it or whatever, which is just absolutely false, but also just hilarious. I don't know if they meant it to be, but it was to me. And I thought it was great. And then when they're like, well, but how can you do that? And, because they'll be crushed, because of the pressure. And they're like, no, it doesn't work like that. And then that's just, okay.
Just trust me.
Okay, it just doesn't work like that, which made it even more funnier to me. So it just, I was like, okay, yeah. Now I know we're going to be in for a fun ride. That was before we kind of got to that second half where it really got interesting when they were back on the surface. But I was like, yeah, we're in for a crazy ride if this is where they're going with it. Having someone exit without any type of suit or protection and 25,000.
Yeah, I had to turn the like critical part of my brain off to like really, because there's a lot of things. Because I was just like right off like the beginning of the movie, I was like, oh, and he's gonna bust out of that container with some CGI foam, and I was like, oh man, the green screen is so bad on that shipping. And I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna have to. I'm like 5 minutes into this thing, I need to shut that off. But even at that point, I'm like, did they really have to do the like septum sinus breathing thing? I was like, they literally passed by suits in that station where like Jiming is like, oh, those are my design. Grab one of those, and he has a suit again.
You are so totally right, and I did not even put that together until now.
You could have given a reason why they just grabbed one of those suits that is in the station with them.
Well, they were also locked in that.
Well, yeah, but like
too, so
they
wouldn't
could have written something to where he was like, "This is my design," and then like had it on him when they got locked in. Like they could have. That would make more sense writing wise.
How about just something as simple as, we might need this later.
Right.
I'm going to bring it along. Practically, it could be useful.
Well, the other thing that cracks me up too is that they actually set up things that could have helped, but they never utilized. Like in the beginning when he's testing that suit that is punching through stone.
Yeah.
Right.
I have a note where it was like,
what was
No.
the point of that?
I took a note going, that's definitely going to come back in a very critical scene later. And then later on, I was like, it didn't. Spoiler alert, it didn't.
I have it in my notes, and it says word for word, because of course there would be a super suit.
Yeah.
And then they never use it.
I honestly thought it was going to be like Chekhov's gun, that it was going to show up later and they're going to use that suit to somehow like fight a Meg or something. Yeah. But no. It just
like super punch one.
They were going to punch through the brain.
Yeah. And we never saw it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's like I said, there's an entertainment value for me watching movies like this. And, like you said, you just have to kind of turn your brain off for a little bit. And that's what I do love, is that I can just sit back for a couple of hours, turn my brain off, not have to think about it, and just be like, okay, logic's not going to apply here. There's no asking questions about, wait, that doesn't work that way. It doesn't make any sense. You just kind of sit back and enjoy the ride. And that's when I knew I was in for a ride, was when we got to that scene. And they didn't let me down. It was definitely quite a ride. So.
Yeah, I was right there with you. I mean, I hate using this comparison again, but it's like the Fast and Furious movies. Like anytime I go into those movies, I unplug my brain before I even sit down and I watch. Right. And that's one of the reasons why I'm able to really enjoy those movies as much as I do. And I know you do.
If you try to apply logic and physics to those movies, you're not going to have a good time. So might as well.
You're just going to be frustrated and angry by the time you leave, and complaining to anyone who will listen about why none of that would ever work.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So by the time they're down in that, because I had a number of those. Well, of course there's this, and of course there's that moments. And by the time they were like down, like actually walking on the floor of the trench, my brain was completely unplugged by that point. All logic was out the window. Yeah. And then so that by the time they actually are back up on the surface and we get all of this immense action that's happening, like I am highly enjoying every second of everything that is happening.
Mm-hmm. When it's over the top and ridiculous for the sake of being over the top and ridiculous, then it's fine. It's fun.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I guess my next point is anybody who knows me, you guys included, know how much of a music fan I am. Mm-hmm. And there's one particular moment in this movie that had me laughing before the movie even started. And it was the fact that they used Under Pressure by Queen as the opening song.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Freddie and
oh, well, that's kind of a double entendre of a song to use.
Yep.
Yes.
Love that song.
Because of where they're going.
Mm-hmm.
And that pressure plays into everything. It plays into, as you mentioned, Rima, the girl whose mask implodes literally seconds before she would have survived.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, so I just love the fact that when movies play with music.
Yeah.
Like that. It's a very quick note, but it's the very first one I had. I wrote Under Pressure just because I got such a kick out of them using that song as the opening song of the movie.
Peg, did you notice that our favorite band was back again to sing another song? So Pim did Hey Mickey for the Meg. And so for this one, they did a take on the Ting Tings. That's not my name. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yep. They returned again, as did Harry Gregson Wagner, too, did all the music for the movie, like he did the first one.
I heard that playing during the credits as I was watching the credits. I was like, that's not my name?
Yes.
And then they go into it, and I was like, oh, this is my name.
Yeah.
My name.
Because it was playing when they introduced Fun Island. It was like,
I'm never going to Thailand on vacation.
I'm never going to Fun Island. That it didn't look very much fun, did it? No.
Yeah.
No. Of course it's called Fun Island.
Yeah. Between this and The Impossible, and Lindsay Lohan just got bit by a snake, which
I'm fine with that.
Lindsay Lohan bit by venomous snake on vacation in Thailand. And so I was like, how does a snake even begin to start planning something like that? No,
she taunted it. I don't know if that's true or not. I just don't like
it. She was bitten by a snake on vacation. I was like, why was the snake on vacation? How did it travel?
It's such a classic joke, but I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when it catches me off guard like that.
Yeah.
Why would a snake be on vacation?
All right. That's all you got there?
Yeah, that was pretty much it. Like I said, quick note. I just really enjoyed the song choice for the opening.
Nice. All right, we'll circle back to Daphne.
All right, so I know Pake has a lot to say about this. I wanted to talk a little bit about the opening before we get to Jason Statham and his new green Indiana Jones or green 007 role that he's in now. I want to talk about seeing one of my favorite creatures I didn't expect to see. I thought it was interesting that we got to see like a circle of life almost, like with the snappers, and then they go in the water, and then there's the T-Rex, and they don't know what to do because they got to go back to where the T-Rex is because they know something else is coming. And then the T-Rex bites the snapper, and the Megalodon bites the T-Rex.
And the cheese stands alone.
There's always a bigger fish.
There's always a bigger fish. That's what you take from that.
I like it.
Because one of the snappers was trying to get like this yellow, beautiful yellow fish. And no, there was no opportunity for that because the T-Rex got it. And I wasn't expecting to see a T-Rex. So I was really excited about that.
I was excited and really sad.
I understand.
Sad for the T-Rex.
Yeah. But I know Pake's not very happy about it. Because the preview...
Oh, that's not the one I was talking about.
Oh, it wasn't?
No.
Because there was a preview that came
that was
out.
it. That was in the trailer. Yeah, like the first trailer, was the opening scene. No, that's not the one I'm talking about.
Did we already talk about the scene that was spoiled in the trailer?
No, we haven't. But
because there's another one that's spoiled.
Yeah, we can. I mean, because my next point, it'll be within my next point if we do. So
okay.
Yeah, that was my point. I was just excited to get to see a T-Rex because it's not something I expected to see. I was excited to see the Megalodons, although not all the same visual effects people worked on this one that worked on the last one. I think I preferred the Megs in the last one more than the Megs in this one because I'm a nerd and I paid that close attention. But I did enjoy some of the creatures in this one, like the baby octopi that were...
Those are cuttlefish, though.
What?
Those were cuttlefish.
Those were cuttlefish.
Mm-hmm.
Are you sure?
I mean, maybe a baby octopus looks just like a cuttlefish. I don't know. Maybe.
Well, they were very cute.
Mm-hmm.
I thought the CGI on the T-Rex looked great.
I thought the
that was
T-Rex
good.
looked really great.
Yeah.
I didn't really have any CGI issues with any of the creatures at all.
There was something about the Megs that I don't know why.
I was just given things nicknames, like the big apex one was Scarface or Tony.
Tony.
And then my super emo place was the octopus was Bert. He was Bert McCracken, which is the lead singer of The Used. So there's that. But yeah.
That would be a completely different movie if that was what their names were.
God, take the Meg 2, animate it, and turn it into a kid's movie.
Yep.
I'm Bert McCracken.
Yep.
So, bring it on, Pake.
Right, yeah. Again, you guys are my point is one little thought and note I had, and I'm like, oh, here I am, cementing my legacy as the guy who talks way too much.
That legacy was cemented a long time ago.
Yeah, because number 2, very broad, but fun island. I just wanted to talk about, loosely, just everything that happened there, that crazy third act, as Rima put it. It's like, oh, look, Jonas is leading multiple Megs to yet again another highly populated area of people having a good time, about to have paradise ruined, as that one guy said. And of course, we get the return of Pip and the dog there as well. It's like, lady, keep your dog away from prehistoric sea life, please. Man. And then, Bert, the octopus, just eats a boat full of people, including the maybe not so happily engaged couple. Because again, it was weird. They seem so in love, oh my god, yes. And then he drops the ring and she's like, you idiot, pick it up. I was like, maybe it's best that didn't last long anyway. Yeah.
The moment that she said that, she said, did you find it, idiot? I'm like, oh, you're dead.
Yeah.
You're going to die. And I'm okay with it.
Yeah. Yeah, but then just everyone out of the water. We led a group of sharks directly towards you. And then, quick, Badiki, pedal the boat, pedal. No, never mind. You're not going fast enough at all. But just, crazy annihilation everywhere, devastation, carnage. It's fun. It reminds me, because they did the same thing in the first Meg with that, like, beach full of people. It's like, we gotta have that scene again, but do it a little differently with an octopus this time and 3 sharks and just add different layers and add up. We talked about Driscoll and the helicopter, Jonas doing his superhero shit on an aquatic vehicle once again. Gotta do it. Gets the jet ski running at literally the last second possible as Scarface is on him. All those things. But, we talked about it. Blowing up a shark's face after riding a wave on a jet ski. Just full-on action movie. The helicopter blade through the brain to take out the big one. It's like, yeah, it's new and creative. I'll take it. But yeah, the one the scene that I wanted to talk about, because I know Ben, because like, have we talked about it yet? Yeah, so Montez, the main villain of the movie, and Jonas kicks him off the dock into the shark's mouth. That scene was in, that shot of him kicking him into the shark's mouth was in the trailer of the movie.
But it was so good. It was still such a good scene.
It was good. It would have been good, except I knew it was coming the second that he got off the boat on that dock. And this is why I will not watch trailers anymore for anything, no matter what, because things like that happen where I was like, that would have been a really fun, surprising scene if I didn't already know that happened 3 months ago.
That's interesting, because I didn't watch the trailer, so I didn't know that they had. I wonder what choice or why they made that choice to.
I don't know.
Do that.
Because I saw it, because I just happened to see the trailer. I don't seek out trailers, but like I'm watching a TV show on like TNT.
Yeah.
And the trailer comes on and the commercials, and you're just like, oh, it's there. And then I see that. But then I'm like, oh, that's like he's going to be fighting some random soldier henchman or something at some point. And then when I get to the movie, I was like, oh, no, that was the quote-unquote like main villain of the movie. And they just showed that in the trailer. Way to go, whoever edited that.
Well, and this is going to make it even worse in that that's actually not the scene I was thinking of that's in the trailer.
God,
another
in the movie.
Another one.
Jess's death is also in the trailer.
Really? I didn't catch that one.
The Meg coming through the glass and snapping her up is also in the trailer.
Jeez.
Man.
So you have two
Glad I
of
didn't
the
catch
main
that one, too.
villains.
Yeah.
Their death is already spoiled in the trailer of the movie.
Yeah. Just again, why I just don't watch trailers anymore if I can help it, because it's best to go in blind because things like that happen.
I still watch them.
I only watched the teaser trailer, which was the opening scene.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, I didn't see any of that. So for me, it was a fresh watch.
Yeah, good. I'm glad. Yeah, because it was. I'm glad because you're like, oh, that's a really cool scene. I was like, it was, and it would have been way cooler if I didn't already know it was going to happen the second that it got set up.
Yeah, because it seems they put a lot of like cool or fun deaths, to watch, in the trailer. So then it's like, what do you have to look forward to? When you watch the movie.
So even like stupid, goofy comedy movies are like that way now, because you'll go and see it in the theater and you're like, oh, all the best jokes I've already heard. They were in the
best
trailer.
Part was
like, okay.
Just the trailer with all the straight jokes.
Yeah.
Well, that's one of the reasons why I was very appreciative of Deadpool 2. Because Deadpool 2, Ryan Reynolds being the marketing genius that he is, actually, they filmed things for the trailer that were not in the movie.
I love that, yeah.
And scenes that were in the movie are very different than the scenes that are in the trailer. It's basically Task Force X. Is that in the trailer, they all land and become a team, but in the movie, every one of them dies when they land.
Yeah.
So when you watch the movie, you're like, wait, that didn't happen in the trailer?
Yeah.
Well, they're not supposed to die.
I like that. You play with the expectations.
He played with the expectations, yeah. But that's because Ryan Reynolds is a genius.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. But yeah, so that was really it, because we've talked about a lot of that stuff. So you guys helped make my points a little shorter, because we've talked about things. But yeah.
That's why you brought us on.
Yeah.
Back to me?
So back around to
Awesome.
Rima, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, y'all have mentioned a few already, but my last point, because I am a huge Jaws fan. Anyone that knows me knows that. I know Daphne does. We both share that love. She sends me fun things about Jaws all the time. So Thank you, Daphne. So I wanted to call out some Jaws references. So I apologize if I'm taking these from anyone else, because I'm sure y'all either took note of them or just maybe a mental note of them. And, for listeners, if you haven't seen any of the Jaws movies, because it's not just like the first or second movie, any of the Jaws movies, there could be spoilers for any of those. So fair warning if you haven't seen them. I mean, they've been around for a while, so shame on you. You've had time, but just to throw that out there. So the first one, DJ's poison tipped bullets were mentioned, which was, a blatant call out. I mean, he even says, "Oh, I saw it in Jaws 2."
In Jaws 2, yeah.
So he makes a reference to that. And that is obviously a reference to Jaws 2 when Roy Scheider as Chief Brody had made some poison bullets to ward off that new shark that was stalking Amity. There was a shot. It was a really cool shot, and it was really memorable and stood out. And I loved it so much. Where you get the view from inside the shark's mouth as he's swallowing, or he or she, I'm not sure, was swallowing the people in the water, and that, I think, at least visually, was a reference that invoked a scene from Jaws 3. If y'all recall that one, there was a scene where the photographer, he always wore that red wetsuit. He got attacked and he was swallowed whole by the shark in Jaws 3. And the shot was from inside of the shark's mouth as he was being like bitten on and stuff. And the shark is clamping down on him. So that was like a little visual, I think, homage to that scene. There was another callback, I thought, to Quint's death in Jaws, the original. And of course, it was very gory, which was great in Jaws, when the shark comes up out of the water, smashes the boat and grabs Quint. So that in the Meg, the scene with Jason Statham when he was on the dock and he gets tripped up and he slides down the dock and looks like he's going to go right into the shark's mouth. But of course, because he's Jason Statham and he's awesome, he holds him back by his foot and the shark's being held back by the chains. That was to me, like a little bit of a visual homage to Quint's scene. Pippin was mentioned. Pippin comes back. And anyone who's watched Jaws remembers poor Pippin, just before Alex Kintner is attacked, little dog Pippin in Jaws was playing fetch in the water, but was not to be seen again. I'm glad that was not shown on screen. So that would have been hard. The helicopter crash. So we were talking about the scene with Mac and the chopper where they're trying to take down the squid. And the helicopter here gets pulled down. It was very much like a callback to Jaws 2 and the helicopter attack sequence in that movie. Y'all mentioned the scene where Jason Statham takes the big, the helicopter blade or whatever the heck it is. He takes that and he's banging it like on the surface of the water to try to get the Meg's attention. Very reminiscent of Jaws 2's climax when Chief Brody is trying to lure the shark away from the teenagers there on the boat, and he's taking the oar, banging it on that cable. So very reminiscent of that. And then when he does, the Meg does turn back to Jason Statham and he's coming after him. And the blade then goes up into the shark's brain. In this scene, it looks like anyway, reminded me of Jaws 4 when Ellen Brody steered the boat into. I can see Daphne know exactly where I'm going. I'm talking Jaws 4 here, guys. Look.
The Jaws movie that nobody talks about.
Oh yeah, the moment you mentioned the moment you said Jaws 4, I tuned out. I'm like, what?
Look, I know. I watched them all, and I do love all of them a little bit, just because it's my favorite franchise. But yeah, in that movie, when Ellen Brody is steering the boat, the shark comes up out of the water, and the what is it called? The bow of the boat pierces the shark and breaks off. And then you see the shark slowly floating down to the bottom of the ocean. You kind of get that scene here too in the Meg when Jason Statham gets it by the blade. Hey, we got to talk about Jaws 4. I said we're going to talk about all of them.
Should have been called Revenge of the Audience. or Revenge on the Audience.
Yeah.
I think it's more revenge inducing the audience.
Yes. I like that better.
Well, and one of my favorites, this is my last one as far as references. So in the beginning, when we were talking about Jiaming and his Meg, who he thinks he's got this relationship with, right? We get this stunning visual. I thought it was a beautiful visual of the Meg facing him. We just get his back and we see the Meg. I thought it was a beautiful visual, but it gave me a little bit of when they're staring and watching him through the glass underwater. I totally got this throwback to Jaws 3 when the shark pierces the glass and
Yes.
everyone's running because the water's coming in, and it very much reminded me of that. I thought we were going to get that scene, especially when it was circling back, and I was like, oh, we're going to get it. We're going to get it. They're going to do it. And they didn't do it, and it was fine. But I think they were trying to kind of give us a call back to that visual.
That was either just before or after we got that wonderful 3D
Yeah.
in Jaws 3. Yeah. That one scene that everyone knows. Yep. It's just before.
Yeah.
It's funny because two of the scenes that you mentioned, I also got images of other scenes from other movies. Neither one of them were Jaws movies. The scene that you mentioned where at Fun Island, when the Megalodon is coming and literally swallowing people like 20 at a time, and the view is coming from inside the shark's mouth, I immediately went to... And it's funny because this scene that I'm thinking of is actually a scene that is spoofing Jaws. I went to a particular scene in the movie One Crazy Summer with John Cusack and Curtis Armstrong, where they have that movie prop shark that comes and grabs the one guy by the arm and keeps him underwater. And that movie is a spoof of Jaws that they're filming in that. And then the scene that you mentioned where he's in the water and he's staring, we get that beautiful shot that you mentioned where he's staring at the Megalodon. I immediately went to Marlin facing the shark Bruce in Finding Nemo.
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
Yep.
That's a good one.
Man, it's different.
That's where my mind went for that scene.
The swallowing scene, slight spoiler, but we just talked about it recently. I got flashbacks to Nope. And then, but then also going back, just the first Meg movie, again, because I liked that there was like a callback to Mei Ying and the shark, the Meg, looking at each other through the glass, because in the first movie, she's younger, much younger, and she's terrified, and it kind of chomps at the glass.
Yeah.
And this time, there's almost like a respect, at least on her end. Like, she's not scared. She's talking to it and asking, like, do you miss your mom? Like, there's this, like, connection between them a little bit. So it was like the same scene mirrored, but, like, she's definitely matured and grown a lot more.
Yeah. And she did seem mature to me. Mei Ying. She did seem more mature. Honestly, like a mother almost. I mean, they were always worried about something happening to her, but they've also instilled in her this need to do the right thing, to save those who need help. And they expect her not to do that, but it's wired into who she is now. But she's pretty responsible, I think, overall. And they need to, give her a little more credit for that, because she did a few things that got them out of situations.
Yeah. I like that scene where, Jonas tells Regis and Mac to take her, and then Regis is like, I'll protect her with my life. And it's like, and I will too. And it's like, no, you don't. Like,
no. And if you thought that Mei Ying was not going to get on that craft and go down in the trench.
Oh, yeah.
You haven't been paying
right.
attention.
Well, I was going to say, we'll talk about other movies I thought of. There were two moments where I thought back to more T-Rexes. Jurassic Park, specifically the Lost World.
Yep.
The second one, where I said she pulled a Kelly and she snuck aboard. Yep. But then later, whenever they're trying to get on the helicopter and Jiaming has to, like, bring the snappers around, he's got the shovel, and I was like, doesn't he know not to go into the long grass?
Never.
Also another Lost World reference.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and it had, with Jiaming thinking he's got like this connection with the Meg is very much like Chris Pratt, thinking he's got this relationship with the Velociraptors,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I didn't really pick up on that, too.
Yeah.
That was literally the clicker
Yeah.
that he had to get their attention.
Yeah.
I think as we've talked about it more today, it just seems more like a love letter to Jaws and Jurassic Park, Jurassic World, all of these creature movies, but with a hell of a lot more humor than we get. I think there was almost too much humor for me. But
well, even when they're on the bottom of the trench and they're fighting off the snappers, and avoiding the Megs, like that is literally, it's Lost World underwater.
Yeah.
Because there's a scene in Lost World where they're trying to outrun the raptors, but get to the operations building so they can survive. That's exactly what this is. It's just underwater.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And with megalodons
Yes.
swimming above them and under pressure.
Yes.
Under lots more pressure. I think we're going to see, this is me just making a very bold prediction for the third one, talking about Mei Ying. I think the third one will probably center on Jonah and Mei Ying finding out that Su Yin was trapped underwater and survived, very similarly the way Janet did in Ant-Man and Quantumania. It's not true at all, Daphne. Don't believe what I just said. I'm being totally ridiculous. If that's what the third movie is, I'm checking out.
It's a crossover with with Wakanda Forever or Avatar, where she's joined some tribe under the water that survives in this cave somewhere, and then she has to enlist their help to help save the mer people. Yeah.
And then Jonah goes to kill a Meg, and she's like, no, he's my friend now.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have survived without him.
And I was sad for the Megs in this movie.
I was too, Rima. Because they didn't ask for that rift to be opened.
No.
And then they just had to go on an expedition to see where it went, and then they got hungry along the way. And
well, Hai-Chi is still there. He's still around somewhere.
Yeah.
That's
But I was
true.
sad. I mean, I was sad for the T-Rex that got eaten, and then I was sad when they were killing the megalodons. I was like, those creatures have lived for how long?
Yeah.
And I know it's fiction, but it just made me sad. I was like, it just, beautiful creature.
You want to talk about more of a love letter? Hai-Chi has now become this franchise's Rexy. He will be the Meg that keeps surviving every movie.
Aw.
Well, Hai-Chi is a she.
Oh, she.
And they were talking about her being pregnant.
Yeah, they were theory was that they were mating, right? So
Yeah, that's why she was acting so crazy.
That's why she had to bust out and get back home. She was like, Mama needs some. I gotta get back.
But that's for tomorrow.
right.
I don't know how Steve Alten would feel about this, because they did try to make a movie before. However, Steve Alten did not want to endorse it. He didn't endorse it because it sounded ridiculous, and I have to agree. It was about sharks that growl and have wings, and I'm sorry, I'm not on board with that either.
I will say, though, I was not on board originally with the idea of Jurassic World before that movie came out, because I heard that the basic premise was making dinosaurs weapons. And I was like, well, that's stupid. And then
at least
I
it's
saw
not as
Jurassic
bad
World.
as that went as far, because very early drafts of that story.
Had guns
dinosaur and
attached to them
human
and everything.
hybrids,
Yeah.
and basically cyborg dinosaurs.
No.
That would have been way too far.
That would have been beyond what even Sharknado put together.
Yeah.
That would have been Michael Bay territory. Let's be real.
Yeah, we're not doing that. I'm glad that they
Yeah.
didn't. We don't need that.
But I mean, I didn't like the idea of dinosaurs being used as weapons, and then Jurassic World came about, and I was like, well, okay, this actually works. So I don't put any premise completely aside until I actually see what it is. So I don't know. That's just me. I'm very easy to please.
All right, I think you're up next, Ben. If you've got a last major point,
Did
if I
Rima
haven't
go?
lost.
Yeah, my whole Jaws.
I think that
we went
was
down a whole
stemmed
rabbit
off
hole
of
with
hers,
my
yeah.
Jaws references.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. Sorry, I checked out at Jaws 4. Sorry.
Oh.
I mean, the only point I have left is it's actually more of a question because it's I guess maybe it was something that was left up to interpretation. By the end of the first Meg movie, we kind of get this whole, isn't there a relationship between Jonah and Su Yin? And now in this movie, it kind of seems like it can be left up to interpretation that maybe that there was something there, and now he's like a surrogate father to her.
What I read is it's inferred or intended that they got married, and he is
stepdad.
The stepdad, basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because it makes sense.
He has a line about like parenting and stuff like that. And I mean, there's very much a father-daughter relationship between them.
But they don't go into it specifically. They don't dive too far into it. They focus more on carnage and mining billion-dollar material that never leaves the bottom of the ocean floor. So that was something that I kind of got, especially towards the end, because I didn't really think too much of it until it got further into the movie, and I started seeing more of this relationship that he's looking after her, like he's very, very protective of her, which he could have been even if he never did marry her. Right. He could have just been protective of her because he's known her all this time.
Well, they bonded. They really bonded.
Yeah.
During the first one, they did.
The original movie.
Yeah. I was just waiting this movie for her to call him crazy as a throwback, and it never happened.
I know. I kind of wanted that too. Maybe she's outgrown it. Mm-hmm. I think it's a testament to Shuya Sophia Kai. The chemistry I thought that she had with Jason Statham and with Wu Jing as her uncle, I felt like that relationship. That's
They're a
what I
family.
felt from them. They're a family.
Yeah.
I got that.
So.
Yeah, the way they played with it and the way they made it feel like it was that way without directly addressing it. So that you could see it that way or you could not see it that way, and it doesn't affect how you feel about everything else that is happening in this movie, which it's something else I appreciated. They
addressed, I think, a couple of questions, but they really left a lot of things open to interpretation as well. Yeah.
But that was really it for my third point, was I kind of wanted to bring that up to see how everybody else felt about that. Because I did have that in my notes. It literally just says stepdaddy ? Because they didn't.
Are you sure that was the notes for this episode? It's not like the fanfic you're working on for something.
It could be more Rhett and Link fanfic I'm working on.
Spicy.
So. But yeah, that was everything else I have is just little notes. That was the last of the main points I kind of had.
All right. Daphne?
All right. So I've just got a couple of filming notes that I wanted to talk about. They did do water survival training because a lot of it was shot underwater, whether it was actually underwater or in tanks. And that was really grueling because filming underwater is really mentally, physically challenging. To do for long periods of time. However, Jason Statham he's a former member of Britain's national swimming squad and a former professional diver, so he's had some experience. Somehow I'm not surprised.
No, that man's a real life badass.
He is.
He is. He swam with real life sharks as part of his warm up for this. He kind of wanted to just get used to what the behavior was, and I'm thinking, oh my God, we don't want you to die before you finish this movie. They filmed a lot in open water, which made things more realistic, but it also was more complicated to do. Because water is always changing, and one day you've got a smooth sea, the next day you've got, choppy, and it was easier to do in the studio tanks because they could control it much better than they could before. And they could utilize the green screen and CGI everything in. As I mentioned, Jason Statham did most of the stunts himself, including the jet ski piece, but he really, when you hire him, you hire someone who could do their stunts. which is, I think, kind of cool. So, as everyone knows, there is a SAG-AFTRA strike going on. So a lot of public publicity activities, such as the premiere in London, were canceled. The world premiere was held in Beijing, National Indoor Stadium in Beijing on July 28th. And that is the only premiere that happened in the world.
And I'm sure like none of the cast were even there because they can't show up.
So.
Yeah.
Mm-mm. So, yeah. That's what I have.
All right. So my last point, let's talk about a bunch of stuff. No, try to go through it quickly. But again, with characters, I a little bit more Ju-Ming, which again, talking about Jing-Woo and in The Wandering Earth, you talked about that, which was great because definitely wanted to bring that up. I will say, this was my first time watching the movie. I didn't see it when it was in theaters or anything. I was very like set, which I'm kind of glad that they swerved me a little bit because again, I'm being kind of like smarmy, being like, I just know everything. I was like, and here's the super suit like we talked about, and that's going to come back. It did not. But like very off the like beginning, I was like, Mei Ying's random uncle who we've never heard about is just here. And I was just like, so we've got an uncle who's leading the research and projects for the company now. I was like, well, he's definitely the villain, right? He's got a pet megalodon, another point towards villain. So like the whole like first like third of the movie, I'm expecting like, okay, when do we find out that this guy's actually the bad guy who's like funding Montez and all that? Like I was waiting for that turn. And it turns out it is kind of still within the company, but it was like Driscoll and all that instead. He was shocked. There's like, these are my designs. But there's like all these little things where I was like, well, he's going to be bad because he's talking about like how him and his father didn't get along and didn't see eye to eye because of like the way he was. And I was like, so they're planting these little seeds. And I wonder if they did that on purpose because it is such like a cliche of like, and here comes mysterious uncle we didn't know about. And he's actually the bad guy. So for him not to be was kind of a little swerve, at least for me. I don't know if anybody else was expecting it. But
no, I never once assumed him to be the villain.
Yeah.
I thought he was going to die. That was the thing that I kept waiting for. And I was really happily surprised when he didn't.
Right. But yeah, so maybe it was just me. I wonder if there's other people that have that thought, but like, just like the randomness of his character, like, and the connections that he did have, I was like, he's going to be the surprise bad guy, but I figured it out. But no, I didn't.
I thought it would have been more of a surprise if this time Mac was the bad guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that really would have been.
I kind of would have hated it, but been totally surprised at the same time.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, them getting away on Montez's submarine while the Megs are all anger biting the station there because, yeah, as we all know, megalodons fucking hate lights, Bite on sight when we see the light. Dark as night, the only way that's right. That's the megalodon motto. Because anytime they've like shown lights, they're like, and now they're just gonna attack metal, and because they hate lights. But yeah, no, while they're attacking the lights, they get away. But I thought it was funny because I could imagine him thinking, and they made a little joke off of it. But he's like, really, Regas? I was like, I could hear you the whole way here as you're going, shut the hatch. She's not going to make it. Shut the hatch. She's like, this is going to be an awkward ride home now because I could hear you the whole time. Yeah, don't go in the long grass. In a rare instance, because usually there's like things I see in a movie like this where I'm like, well, is that possible? It's like, of course, no, it's not possible. But there was a turn on that where I was like, well, that's not possible. And then I did some research and I was like, oh, never mind. Something I thought was fully impossible turned out to be extremely common, which is refueling a helicopter while it's running and in air. I was like watching that and I was like, now it wouldn't fill up with gas that fast. It was like, and it's good. But
Supercharged.
But I was like, can you do that? But then as I looked into it, I was like, yeah, it's actually very common in military operations to fuel helicopters while they're in the air still going. I was like, to get to places that they need to get. And I was like, yeah, no, that makes sense.
Well, it doesn't even get the full in the movie either. They only get about a quarter of a tank before they
but it seemed like it was moving very fast. Oh. It's like, yeah.
Smaller tanks.
Yeah. But so that was one thing I was like, here's another unbelievable thing. But then I looked it up and I was like, actually, no, it's extremely common.
Maybe emptying your sinuses can help you survive 25,000 feet under the water.
Rotors running refueling is what they refer to. So RRR is more than just an Oscar-winning Indian film.
Nice.
But yeah, and then he got back into the helicopter in the absolute most over the top way he possibly could, with big explosion as he's leaping into the flying helicopter. I liked him setting the bomb to try to like take out the octopus, and then he like dives out and he's going to try to land on top of the cabana roof thing and just breaks right through it. And then the bomb turns on and he like panics for a little bit and then just switches it back off.
Yeah.
I was like, that's funny. I chuckled. I'm like, and then of course, all the scenes with him and the octopus, I just was like, I'll just move past because most of it didn't make a lot of sense with physics. And I was like, so it let go of him, but then it was grabbing him, but then it wasn't holding him again. And then it did. It was kind of weird, but it led to this shark versus octopus scene, which I'll admit was kind of cool. So I'll take that. And then let's see. Yeah, just the last little things, like there's, they think they're done, and then one last shark, and Hai Chi is coming, and she possibly listened to his commands. Perhaps, we may never know. He thinks it was. Jonas is just like, it was distracted by the dolphins. He's like, no, she was definitely listening to me.
It was the dolphins. No, she was listening to me.
Yeah, I still don't know if I buy the bonding thing or not. Maybe it's just because like whatever that like button is, because it's like a clicker, like you mentioned, like Jurassic World, but it's also, is it sending out some kind of like electric?
It's a sonar
like
pulse.
wave kind of thing.
It's a sonar pulse.
Yeah, this is just gonna like deter the shark, but I don't know if there's actually really that much of a bond, because it's. I guess maybe we'll see if we.
Well, they're
continue,
attracted to bright light, but annoyed by sonar. I mean, these are things we know about megalodons.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, so that was really it. Just wanted to talk about some of the stuff with him and how I was so ready for him to be the bad guy, and then happy that he wasn't, because he turned out to be a very fun character. Oh, also he's the and I know that you can't speak Chinese, so that's why I'm doing it anyway, to distract you while my friend sneaks up to attack you from behind.
That was fun.
If these movies have showed us nothing else, it's the megalodon is one of the strongest creatures from that age. Because even in Jurassic World, it is what helps the T-Rex, helps Rexy and Blue like win in the end as it comes up.
Yeah, that I have one behind me. It's a Mosasaurus.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's all I had on that. I've got a bunch of random notes I'm sure I could like swing through, but I'll let anybody else do any other random notes if they've got them.
I kind of just have maybe. Do we include quotes in our notes, or is that separate?
Yes.
Sure.
No,
Yeah, we can just.
Yeah, we no longer have a separate quote section.
Okay.
So if you have quotes, I have a couple quotes that I like.
I literally have three notes, and two of them are quotes. I can go through them real quick just to get them out of the way. A megalodon in captivity is such a trope that I was like, of course it's going to go haywire. Like, of course this megalodon is going to get out. I just love "See you later, chum."
Oh, yep. Good one.
Such a great line, made me chuckle. And then, oddly enough, the only other quote I have comes from a parrot. And it is the parrot in the opening scene when he's like screaming, "Help me," in the beginning. Yeah. And then the guys come in and Jonah confronts him, and Jonah's telling him he's from the Home Office, and the bird's like, "Bullshit."
Bullshit.
Yeah. And then when they start fighting, the parrot's like, "Now play nice."
Yeah.
Great comedic relief. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I got a big kick out of that. But that's pretty much everything on my list from this movie that, that we haven't talked about.
There were a couple good ones. I liked when Jonas asks, "Why are you swimming with the Meg Jimeng?" And he says, "I'm conducting an experiment." And he said, "Is the experiment, do I taste good?"
Yeah. That was funny.
That's a good one too.
Yeah, you got any others, Rima? Because I'll just
no, I don't have any other notes. And I was just we were just talking about quotes. That was one of them that I really liked. Yeah. So go ahead.
Daphne, anything else?
I got a couple things. When Mei Ying is he's basically having to take all these pictures with fans at that dinner or that presentation. And she said, smile and pretend you love it. And she says it so nonchalantly, like it's no big deal. I liked, Let's Get This Show Underwater, which was when they were trying to get down to the depths, I believe. When Jimmy tells Jonas that the Megs are there to mate, he says, oh great, more Megs. Which I thought was funny. And I love that he and Megan had this thought, or they kept saying the same thing. We work the problems one by one. We do what's in front of us, and then we do the next thing. I think that kind of went to show, how close they are and their connection to each other. Jess, when she's knocking on the door and says, boys, I don't want to harm you, but I do need you to come out of this room. I thought that was funny. And when the megalodons came up through the hole, they weren't the only thing that came up through the hole, because we got the snappers, and then a little bit later we got the octopus, which I thought was, it just made me say, I repeat, it wasn't the only thing to come up through. It wasn't just the megalodons, there were other things.
Release McCracken.
Yeah, and I did say sushi anyone, as one of the legs is chopped up in the propellers. I thought that was great.
Man, throw a little rice vinegar on those bad boys. Good time.
And then Regis asked Mei Yang what she's doing there at near the very end when she's walking out of the water, and she just looks at her calmly and just says, "I had to save the dog." Like this is nonchalant, no big
Obviously.
deal. Yeah.
Pippin just keeps getting into these situations, and somebody's got to be there for her.
When that dog showed up, I was like, "Oh no."
I think that dog has plot armor.
Mm-hmm.
I do.
That
Not
dog
as
is
strong
like
as...
Yeah. That dog is like John McClane. Wrong place, wrong time, multiple times.
Uh-huh.
Can't we ever have a good vacation? Do we always have to go somewhere where shit happens?
Right. We gotta stop picking beach locations.
If it's anything like Jaws, you can't go somewhere else because the shark will just follow you.
Oh, God. Yeah. Mm-hmm. They're very intelligent, and they can hold a grudge. So, yeah, that's all I have. So, please thrill us with the rest of your notes.
All right, I'll try to go through fast. I don't have... We've talked about a lot, but just little things. Again, it's kind of weird where when they're going down, like when Hai Chi shows up, so they've got to, like, go through the thermocline. It's like, she can't follow us down there, can she? And it's like, no, don't worry, she can't follow us. And it's like, immediately, they're like, oh, she followed us down here. It's like, yeah, it's the same. It's like, the first movie was because the first Meg followed them through the thermocline up because of the heat they exude. So it's like, there's been 2 movies that have, like, established that this is going to happen. So I don't know. Because even, like, when they leave, before you see the octopus and everything come up, and they're like, do you think they can follow us up here? It's like, oh, God, I hope not. And it's like, damn well they can and will.
It's been proven before.
Montez was like, well, he's definitely the villain, not the other guy. Because he had that, when he blows up the bombs, I was like, he had very much, some of you will die, but that's a sacrifice I'm willing to make kind of energy. Then let's see. Lots of just like, we've talked about a lot. Oh, Lance was one of the guys that went down with them. Lamprey to the face was funny because he's like fully panicking over that. And it's like, the suit's more resilient than that. You're fine. It was kind of funny. But then the suit does not hold up to the giant octopus. Like right after that, it probably just like cracks him open like a clam off screen. But yeah, it's
that dude should have just been wearing a red shirt.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then just talk about, like, it was cool seeing, like, all, like, the sea life and stuff down there, like the little cuttlefish and, like, the spider crabs walking around everywhere and stuff like that. It was pretty cool. I liked seeing those. Yeah, the snappers, which I talked about, that you don't have to sacrifice yourself, basically. See, talked about the... it's about air, that whole thing. Of course, then, yeah, you talk about plot armor. It's like, if anyone can do this, it's you, because you have plot armor. You're Jonas. Let's let's see. The octopus coming out of the water the first time it comes out, and it grabs the one. It says "fuck this one guy" in particular, which he's the creepy dude that was hitting on the ladies. This like scene earlier, and I was like,
"Oh my goodness!"
So it's like, ladies and gentlemen, feminist icon, giant murder octopus. And then let's see if I had any other notes. Just kind of evil stuff. We talked about like the weirdness of the villains a little bit, where they're this trench metal that they're mining, where it's just like super valuable. And so this main team is like, we're trying to protect and conserve the ocean, and Driscoll and her people, which are like part of the same company, I think. They didn't do a great job at explaining all the connections there, but they're just like, oh no, we don't care about any of that. We just want to tear up the ocean for its natural resources so we can make money.
She's totally financing both teams, because she's the one that's at the party in the beginning.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So she's basically funding all of the efforts to explore.
So she knows where more areas to mine are.
Yeah.
Yeah. Basically.
Well, she also knows what areas they haven't mined yet or explored yet to know where they can mine.
Yeah, that's good. I didn't think about that, but yeah, it makes sense. And then like the weird Montez and Jess are just like a couple randomly, and I was like, well, let's just get cornier with it a little bit. Which does lead to that one line though. She dies, and then like he's talking on the phone with Driscoll, and she's like, "Are you crying?"
He was really upset. And I feel like he had vengeance in his heart when he was going after Jonas.
And then, not really anything else other than just like a little like quip that I made where, before they start fighting the sharks, it was like, Maying, we're going to need you out of the movie for a little bit because we don't really have anything for you to do. So run over there to that guard tower and then come back whenever it's convenient for you to be in the plot again.
You talked a little bit about plot armor and when particular characters have it. And one of the things I kind of enjoy it when it happens as a cinephile, as like I am, is when I watch movies that totally break that trend.
Yeah.
Like they bring in this big name actor who you assume is just going to be the hero of the movie. And then within like the first 20 minutes, they are out of the picture. They are written out. They're killed off. Executive Decision with Steven Seagal and Kurt Russell is one of them. And Steven Seagal is killed off in the first 20 minutes of the movie.
Well, and like,
they did it in
with Deep Blue Sea with Samuel Jackson.
With
we thought
Samuel
he was
Jackson,
be a bigger part. And I remember watching that the first time thinking, holy crap, I can't believe they actually did that, because it's definitely not what you would have expected. So yeah, I enjoyed that too.
Yeah. There's a horror movie, and this is one that you guys could actually cover if you haven't already. There's a movie from 2005 called Feast. And they've made a number of them since then, but that
was the movie that came out of Project Greenlight, right?
Yes. Yeah, the very first season of Project Greenlight. It's about all these people trapped in a bar while these creatures are fighting, and the lead character's name is Hero. His name is Hero. And you're meant to assume this is the guy that's coming in to save all of them. And in the first 10 minutes, drug out a window and torn apart. And it's somebody else who steps up to that mantle. It's like, I love when movies break and challenge the audience by doing something like that.
Right.
Yeah, because
anything Sean Bean's done.
Hey, he survived in Pixels.
And he has survived in Snowpiercer.
Yeah.
Like, the entire time. So, I think when they do that, though, it just puts you on the edge. And you just start thinking, if they can do it to them, nobody's safe. And so you watch the rest of the movie like, oh my God, when's it going to happen? Because you expect other people.
So you're saying you want Meg 3 to start with Jason Statham's character's death?
No, not at all. I do not want that at all.
No.
But I mean, like, just another example. It's been undone with the most recent movies, but Halloween Resurrection. Laurie Strode is killed in the opening of the movie.
Yes.
It's interesting when they challenge the audience with that. But no, I do not want Jason Statham to die in the beginning of Meg 3.
The funny thing about Halloween Resurrection It's better than Halloween Ends.
Yes, it is.
Most things are.
I will give you that. Wait, I think I was on with you guys for that one, not Armageddon.
No, you were on for Armageddon.
Yeah.
No, but I think Halloween Ends came after Armageddon.
Were you on for Halloween Ends?
Oh no, I left a
No.
I left a voicemail. You're right.
Because we completely, our thoughts are well known on Halloween Ends.
Because I remember I remember ranting to you guys about that movie, and now that I think about it, like, yes, it was in a voicemail.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We had such high hopes for the second two movies in that trilogy because the first one was really good.
Halloween from 2018 was so good that
and then
that's just where it ends. Just let that be the ending, and that's fine.
Don't watch it. I've told friends, don't watch the other two. Pretend it's over.
But I think, that sums up pretty much everything. I think we've been through the trenches of this movie. We've dug it all up. Yeah.
Nice.
I really enjoyed the pressure of recording this podcast.
Yeah.
It was, I know, right?
It was mega fun.
I was just going to say, don't get Pake and I started on the
Yeah. This is what we have to look forward to next month.
Yes, it is.
Punishment.
Oh, no. Pake and I think have a record of 30, 40 minutes of just puns about scissors.
Yeah.
It was so ridiculous.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I think that wraps it up if nobody's got really anything else to say. But I'm super happy to have both of you on. Ben, it's been a while. Missed you, so it's good to have you back.
Yeah.
Even Rima, I've missed you because we're kind of on a little hiatus between shows right now. So
yeah, but you guys, if you're covering it, are you guys covering Fall of House of Usher?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
I figured as much.
Yeah.
I feel like we
will be back on it. We might have to skip
cover anything that Mike Flanagan.
We might have to skip a week. We haven't talked about that yet because there will be the 1 week where we're both hanging out in Massachusetts while that's running, while we're trying to do that. But
we're going to figure something out. But yeah, we're definitely covering that. Super excited for that.
Yeah. So before we kind of let you guys go and feedback and all of that, definitely talk about what you guys got going on. I know I just mentioned me and Rima will be back in October with the Flaniverse, but Ben's got all kinds of great stuff always going on too.
Yes.
I love it. I mean, so I just think to get mine out of the way, actually this week, Kristen and I just wrapped our coverage of Lost. We just covered the series finale of Lost after 121 episodes of that show.
Awesome.
Yeah.
We have wrapped it up, and Jason came back on to bookend our coverage of that. And then we're not stopping. We're jumping right into the next series, in which we're doing a Ted Lasso rewatch right after. So
yeah, me too.
Football is life.
Yeah.
Football is life. And then going over on the Wilhelm side of things, Wilhelm is still going. I got a bunch of episodes in the works right now in which I'm going to start casting to come on. Kristen and I, who does the Revisited podcast with me, we started a new series of episodes over on Wilhelm called The Movie Swap, where every week we give each other a movie to watch. And then the next episode, we talk about those movies and give each other more homework. So this last episode that we just did, she gave me Black Klansman, which is the Spike Lee movie, and I gave her Pirate Radio. So they're movies that we haven't seen before. So it's our first watch of these movies. So we do that every 2 weeks. And then our homework for next week, or the next episode, is I gave her the Jon Favreau movie Chef.
Oh, God, I love that movie so much.
I do, too.
Yeah.
And she gave me the first movie in the Maze Runner series.
Okay.
Yeah. All right.
So looking forward to watch. And it's fun because I also rewatch the movies I gave her.
Mm-hmm.
So I got to rewatch Pirate Radio because I gave it to her. And then I'm excited because it kind of plays into the movies I give her. I give her movies that I know she's never seen, but I kind of want to rewatch.
Yeah.
So
that's that was kind of like you gave her like Real Steel and Scott Pilgrim.
Yeah.
And those have all been great.
Yeah. So I gave her Chef because I kind of really want to rewatch Chef.
I need to go back to that one too very soon.
It's a great movie. It's got a great cast.
It does. Really
It's got a
does.
stacked cast on it. But yeah, WilhelmPodcast.com is where you can find all the stuff for Wilhelm, and RevisitedPod.com is where you can listen to the Lost coverage that we just wrapped, and jump in now because we're hitting the beginning of Ted Lasso within the next week or two. So.
And it's never too early to revisit Ted Lasso.
No, it's not. We can't wait to jump into the series.
I've never stopped watching. I literally,
Constant.
it's on a loop in
Loop
my
it.
house. It's constantly on, normally at various times of the day. So I haven't really stopped watching. So perfect.
I was the same way too until Kristen and I decided to do it for Revisit, and then I'm like, okay, I'm gonna stop.
Yeah, totally.
And I'm gonna wait until we're doing the podcast.
Totally makes sense when you're going to podcast on it. But yeah. So, but I'm not.
All right. And then Rima, anything else? Like I said, we plug, we're jumping back on Strange Indeed next month, but any other little things going on between now and then?
I know we're definitely coming back in October, as you mentioned, for Mike Flanagan's new show on Netflix, Fall of the House of Usher. We might have something. I don't want to announce it yet because in case anything happens, but there could be something coming a little sooner than that. So, just stay tuned, but guaranteed we'll be back in October.
Yes, I'm so excited for that.
I mean,
cannot wait.
I've not yet been disappointed by anything from Mike Flanagan, so I'm super excited that we're going to cover that. And yeah, I miss you, buddy. I was super excited to be on here with everyone because I miss all y'all's faces, but not seeing Pake every week is hard, my buddy.
And I'm glad, like I said, I kind of mentioned we'll be hanging out in person sometime next month also. So
yeah, all four of us are going to.
All of us are
I
going to be
know.
It'll be good.
Great.
Can't wait. Be so good. And it's going to be cool. Like, the weather should be pretty cool.
Oh, it'll be cool in other ways too, Daphne.
Yes.
Just because we're
Yeah,
all
it'll be
so
cool.
cool.
True. I know. It's going to be awesome.
Oh, awesome. Well, thank you guys again so much for coming on. We'll have to have you back. We won't wait another year and something before Ben's back on.
No.
No, it's been fun. I appreciate, you guys willing to take a chance and bring two people on.
This is the first time we've ever done it, and I really enjoyed it. It was really fun.
It was a fun discussion. It was chill.
Yeah, this was great. Thank you all for having me.
Yeah, it was fun.
This was great.
See you guys later. There goes the feedback phone. So I know I got to go get that, and then we'll see what other people think.
Hopefully, it's not telemarketers.
All right, we do have a little bit of feedback this week.
What? You mean it's not telemarketers?
No telemarketers this week.
Oh my gosh. That's awesome. I was afraid it might be.
Mm-hmm. One person with some kind of religious pitch, but no, I'm kidding. You say they're trying new ways to talk to people.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so you skipped
but
that
then they
one.
picked up on the fact that Satan has called through that line before, and they freaked out and hung up. So
yeah, I can imagine that they would get a bit nervous about that.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, hopefully we won't ever hear from him again. Just avoid talking about movies about his children, and then we won't. Oh shoot!
Yep,
we'll deal with that when we get there. Anyway,
you had to say that, didn't you?
Yeah. Anyway. But yeah, no. Anyway, we do have one from Deep Impact carrying along a fun little thing from our friend Penny. Says, great podcast. Pake should be a news anchor for real. Oh, did you enjoy my little bit there? I had fun writing that. That was fun. So.
You did a good job. So the rest of our feedback is about the Meg 2. We have a message from Gemma that says, well, I thought it was a wee bit silly, but I was entertained and I jumped a few times. I think the whole walking around on the trench floor at God knows how many feet under was unbelievable to me, especially after what just happened with the Titan submersible. Yes, I know it's just a movie, but I couldn't stop thinking about those people, and when the one woman's helmet imploded, I was like, oh God, that's a bit much. They also had dinosaurs in the movie, and Travis from Fear the Walking Dead. Oh yeah, that other show. The shark stuff at the island was fun, and there were a few Jaws and Jaws 2 references I enjoyed. It was okay for a few hours of popcorn munching, and I do love shark movies.
Nice. Thanks, Gemma. And Tony writes in to say, the Meg 2 was an interesting watch. I hated most of it, but I also laughed out and genuinely liked some of it. All the underwater scenes were the worst. They were dark and fake looking. Above water was better, at times pretty funny. The scenes with Mac and DJ were my favorite. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know a lot about deep water, but I know that the pressure down there means that they took a lot of liberties with this story they spun. But besides it being ridiculous, it was kind of fun. It's hard for me to hate a shark movie. I love that both of those finished with like the same sentiment. That's great.
I know. Sometimes a movie is just meant for you to sit back and enjoy with some popcorn, not take it too seriously, but just enjoy what's presented to you.
Yeah. As you heard me say when we recorded this episode earlier, when we were talking about it, where I even said, I was like, my notes started a little nitpicky and I immediately had to turn that part of my brain off or else I was going to have a bad time. And then I had a good time once that was like not where it focused at all.
Yeah. You have to just close it off, let go, free your mind, and the rest will follow. So if you'd like to submit feedback, you can find us on Facebook and Instagram at Run for Your Lives Podcast. You can find us on X or Twitter, whatever they're calling it these days, at RFYL Podcast. You can email us, runforyourlivespodcast@gmail.com. And if you're enjoying the show, tell your friends. We are available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, pretty much all the other podcast players, including YouTube. Go to runforyourlivespodcast.com for all the links that you'll ever need. And give us a review on Apple Podcasts, as that is the best way to share the love and get us out there even more. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely, we do. And of course, speaking about sharing the love, got to give some shout outs to things going on in the podcast universe around us. It's a broken record at this point. My other podcast, Strange Indeed, still on hiatus. Wait till October. We got some great Flaniverse goodness coming at you with that Fall of the House of Usher. As soon as that drops and gets started, we will be running on that. That does run into our kind of a Podcastica vacation get together, so I don't know what our recording schedule will be like around like a week within there, but we'll figure that out when we get to it. But yes, we will be covering Fall of the House of Usher in October when that's out, and I'm so excited to get to more Flanagan.
I love that Flanagan is taking Edgar Allan Poe and turning it into something special.
Yes.
Because I think his vision is just impeccable, and I really am looking forward to seeing how he brings this story to life.
Yeah, it'd be great. I have high hopes for it. But also lots of other great things going on Podcastica for the Star Wars fans out there. Of course, Jonathan, James, and Kristen covering Ahsoka on Disney Plus as those episodes come out. Episode 5 is the most recent one that should be out soon. Should be out this weekend as you're listening to this. If it's not up, it will be up very soon. What an episode. By the way, if you are a big Star Wars nerd, especially like Clone Wars stuff, oh my god. Just like goosebumps, man. Goosebumps.
One of my coworkers is finishing up Clone Wars so they can watch Ahsoka.
Mm-hmm.
And they just had like a little bit left. So they were going to be able to catch up probably before the show ends for the season.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's good. It is. Oh man, it's great. I'm not going to give away any spoilers other than that little bit of like kind of era, but some major things. If you're a big Star Wars fan, you should be watching Ahsoka, and it's so good. So definitely check out the coverage on Podcastica, the Star Wars TV cast. Then also on the cast of us, we're back in the Walking Dead world over there. Jason and Lucy back together. The gang is back covering the Daryl Dixon show, Walking Dead, Daryl Dixon. Episode 1 up, and I thought it was incredible. I think that it was great to listen to Jason and Lucy back in the saddle. I actually really enjoyed the pilot of Daryl Dixon. I'm excited to see where this series goes. It's very different for The Walking Dead in a couple of different ways. Again, not spoiling anything for those who haven't seen it, but kind of take a different storytelling approach. So that should be interesting to see where this series goes. And excited to be on the ride with Jason and Lucy for it. Over on the Wheel of Time podcast, Greg and Veronica covering down season 2 of Wheel of Time. We got episode 2 this week. So definitely check that out. Welcome to the White Lotus. As they are working their way through White Lotus, should begin recording on season 2 very soon. If not this week, I'm not sure 100%. I have to check with Jason on that. He'll let me know if I. But White Lotus Goes to Italy season 2 should be there pretty soon as they're breaking down that. A new podcast has launched. If you are a Buffy the Vampire Slayer fan, then there is a Buffyverse podcast. So Buffy, Angel, it's called Still Slaying, and they're not going all the way through the whole series. They are kind of picking out tentpole episodes, or really just like important episodes that they want to talk about, the major ones, and deep diving into some of their favorite Buffy the Vampire episodes. I think they will get into Angel maybe at some point and stuff, but right now got some Buffy episodes that they're breaking down, and that is Penny and Kara over there. So definitely check that out. The Revisited podcast with Ben and Kristen. We've said it. I mean, Ben was on here with this episode earlier. He talked all about it. So Lost is over. They're jumping into Ted Lasso. So as he said, definitely check that out. And lastly, always give some love over to TV Podcast Industries. Love those guys over there. So of course we have Derek, John, and Chris covering Ahsoka and Wheel of Time on TV Podcast Industries as well. So another great podcast for you to go check out those shows. But as always, you can come back here to Run for Your Lives next week, because we will have something fresh and fun and new for you. What are we doing? I might have kind of jinxed it a little bit earlier, but...
Well, you did make a little statement that kind of... Yeah. Yeah, you kind of thought, and then you remembered, well, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So when Gary starts to notice odd and disturbing behavior from his new stepson, Lucas, he seeks advice from other stepfathers who have similar concerns. Together, they try to uncover the truth about Lucas and decide how to deal with a potentially supernatural threat. Next week, we discover what happens when you're suddenly the stepfather of the Antichrist. We are discussing Eli Craig's 2017 horror comedy film, Little Evil, starring Adam Scott and Evangeline Lilly.
Be a fun one. Another
Yeah.
good horror comedy film, been a little bit since we've been we've done some, here, Meg has some funny stuff. We did Alligator, which is kitschy, but to really jump back into the cooties of the this is a comedy film with a horror mask on it, it's great to get back to that.
I was thinking too about Little Monsters. That was another one that was a lot of fun. It's good to dive into these. I feel like we keep them on a very short list, and we pull them in when we've been kind of too serious for a while and need something that's got a lot more comedy into it. So
absolutely,
yeah.
Should be a fun one. So it is a Netflix original, so it is streaming on Netflix. So if you've got that, go check it out. It's great. I think it's great. So give it a watch. Let us know your thoughts. We'd love to have your feedback on that next week.
Absolutely. Yeah, I had never seen this one, so I got introduced to it, which is the opposite of usual, because usually it takes watching movies that I've already seen. So every once in a while he finds one that I haven't seen, and it's a lot of fun for us to break it down. So definitely check it out on Netflix. With that, though, we have reached the end of our episode. Thanks everyone for listening. I'm Daphne.
And I'm Pake.
And if you have to run, you better run for your lives.
Bye-bye.